In January 2005, an experienced cave diver, Dave Shaw, decided to do the impossible when he attempted to retrieve the remains of Deon Dreyer's body, a 20-year-old adventurer who had been lost for 10 years at 885 feet in Bushman's cave. But after he succeeded in reaching the body, excited that Deon would finally have a proper burial, an unexpected turn of events that can only be found in horror stories rendered Dave helpless, running out of air. From trying to give another man a proper burial, he was quickly digging his own grave. So where did it go wrong for Dave, and how did he end up in this mess? Dave Shaw, a short but stocky 5'10" Australian, was an accomplished scuba diver, technical diver, and airline pilot who began his aviation career with Cathay Pacific in 1989. Shaw was not your ordinary diver. He was daring, yes, but his skills and experience were his biggest asset. Shaw was first introduced to the Bushman's Cave in June 2004 by his friend, Don Shirley, a fellow technical diver and experienced instructor. A couple of months later in October, he made his first dive into the cave in pursuit of some depth records. Shaw aimed to take his rebreather deeper than anyone ever had, attach a light reel of cave line to the guide line, and explore the uncharted depths with a fearless curiosity that defined his legendary dives. But you do need to understand that Bosmansgat, or Bushman's Hole, was no ordinary cave. Located in South Africa's northern Cape Province, it is a submerged freshwater sinkhole known for its extreme depth and high altitude. Rising over 4,921 feet above sea level, it poses a formidable challenge even to the most seasoned divers. At this altitude, decompression times mirror those of diving to 1,112 feet below sea level, significantly complicating the risks. For years, its true depths were a mystery until Nunu Gomes, a bold Johannesburg-based diver, ventured there in the 1980s. In 1988, Gomes set an African depth record at over 400 feet, and by 1993, the cave's reputation as a deep diving mecca had spread. That year, legendary diver Sheck Exley reached the bottom at 863 feet, supported by Gomes and a team. Gomes later found Bushman's Hole plunged to at least 927 feet. Bushman's Cave was the third deepest freshwater cave in the world. But only a few minutes after his dive, Shaw, suited in a black crushed neoprene dry suit and equipped with a cutting-edge closed-circuit rebreather, had descended to an incredible depth of over 700 feet. Gliding silently down the guideline to the cave's depths, Shaw resembled a shadowy, otherworldly creature, his only exposed skin visible behind the mask. He was strapped with 6 gas cylinders which extended like extra limbs. On land, the sheer weight of his gear would have made his movement nearly impossible, but underwater, he became weightless and agile, which was why he descended that quickly. At a depth of 800 feet, Shaw faced the effects of narcosis, a condition brought on by the intense pressure of such depths. Yet, he pressed forward. Shaw reached the sloping bottom of Bushman's Hole. Time was critical. Every minute at this staggering depth, now reading 886 feet on his dive computer, would add over an hour of decompression. Despite the urgency, Shaw remained calm, sweeping his light back and forth as he became the first person to explore and lay line at this depth. Then he froze. About 50 feet away, illuminated in the crystal clear water, was a body lying on its back, arms outstretched as if reaching for the surface. Shaw instantly recognized it. Deon Dreyer, a 20-year-old South African who had vanished in Bushman's Hole a decade earlier after blacking out during a dive. For 10 years, divers had searched for him, and now Shaw had found him. Where nobody or rescue team was able to find Deon's remains, Shaw did. In his excitement, he reported back to Shirley about his discovery. Then he resurfaced and phoned Theo, the father of the late Deon, telling him that he was going to fetch his son. Theo and his wife Marie were pleased and longed to see that their son got a proper burial. They remembered how adventurous and full of life their boy was. Raised in Vereeniging, South Africa, Deon was an adrenaline junkie. With about 200 dives under his belt, he eagerly joined an expedition to Bushman's Hole during the 1994 Christmas break as a support diver. On December 17, 1994, Deon's fate took a tragic turn. During a practice dive, everything seemed fine as he exchanged signals with his buddy at 196 feet. But as the group ascended, a light below them caught their attention. The divers quickly realized that Deon was missing. Their leader, Dietlef Guillaume, tried to pursue Deon, but stopped when the light disappeared, fading deeper into the hole. "I decided it was a suicide chase," he later wrote. The exact cause of Deon's death remains unknown, but the most likely culprit was a deep water blackout from carbon dioxide buildup. 2 weeks later, his father hired a mining sub to search for his body. The sub found Deon's helmet on the cave floor, but his body was never recovered. In time, Theo and Marie accepted that their son would rest eternally in the majestic depths of Bushman's Hole. After many years, Dave Shaw and his team of divers would finally retrieve Deon's remains. They scheduled January for this recovery, but before then, they had been inside the cave multiple times to prepare for the retrieval. Shaw's mission demanded precision and innovation. Equipped with a cutting-edge Mk 15.5 rebreather, custom modified to withstand immense pressures, Shaw aimed to conserve oxygen and minimize decompression time. The team meticulously rehearsed the operation. Shaw practiced bagging a weighted dummy underwater at Kamadi Springs, confident he could replicate the process at Bushman's. At 6:13 a.m., with a camera mounted on his helmet to document the recovery, Shaw slipped into the water. He descended rapidly along the shot line, his movements smooth and precise. Within 11 minutes, he reached the cave floor, his light cutting through the gin-clear water to illuminate Deon's remains. Encased in his wetsuit, Deon's body was remarkably preserved, his skeletal face still wearing a diving mask. Shaw began the delicate process of securing Deon into the body bag. He moved with purpose, pulling the bag from his kit and carefully positioning it over Deon's legs. But as he began to maneuver the corpse, disaster struck. A sudden plume of silt erupted, clouding the water and obscuring his view. When the particles settled, Shaw was greeted by an unsettling surprise. Deon's body was no longer anchored to the muddy floor. Instead, it floated freely, twisting and turning as though defying the laws of the deep. The plan rehearsed meticulously in shallower waters had hinged on Deon being stationary. Now, Shaw was faced with a new and untested challenge. The body rolled and drifted in front of Shaw, evading his grasp as he fought to secure it in the bag. The task was infinitely harder than anyone had imagined. The seconds dragged on, and Shaw's breathing began to quicken. For the first time, an audible grunt of effort escaped him, a small but ominous sign. As the silt clouded the water and Shaw's breathing became more rapid, the effects of narcosis began to take hold. Still, Shaw persisted, determined to complete the task. Minutes turned into a dangerous eternity. Shaw's breathing grew labored, the sound of his inhalations captured by his helmet camera. His focus narrowed, consumed by the single goal of recovering Deon. Despite checking his dive computer, he ignored the signs that it was time to abort. At such depths, every second of delay compounded the risks. When Shaw's light stopped moving, Shirley, stationed at 725 feet, knew something was wrong. A cranked controller on his rebreather forced him to abandon his rescue attempt, leaving Shaw alone in the darkness. For hours, the surface team waited anxiously, hoping for a miracle that never came. Shirley eventually surfaced, Battered and disoriented after nearly 12 hours in the water, the grim truth was clear. Dave Shaw had died attempting to recover Deon Dreyer. The mission had failed, or so it seemed. 2 days later, an astonishing discovery was made. As divers retrieved the remaining equipment, the cave line Shaw had tied to Deon's body was pulled upward. Buoyed by the expanding gases in their suits and rebreathers, Shaw and Deon ascended together. Their bodies were found near the surface, entangled but finally free of the abyss. Dave Shaw's final dive was a testament to human resolve and the allure of the unknown. For the Dreyer family, the recovery of their son's body brought a bittersweet closure. For the diving community, Shaw's story became a poignant reminder of the dangers inherent in pushing the boundaries of exploration. In life, Dave Shaw was a pioneer, a man who sought challenges others deemed impossible. In death, he became a symbol of dedication and bravery, his legacy forever intertwined with the depths of Bushman's Hole. If you like this story, like, share, and subscribe to our channel for more.